Well, this is the first story of Vikramaditya and Betal. The name of the story is A Lesson uh, for the Princess. Okay? So, when Vikramaditya pulled the ghost gently, at that time Betal began his story, first story. He said about a king and his son. The story goes like this. Vajramukta was the son of Pratap Mukut, the king of Varanasi. One day, Vajramukut and his friend, his father's minister's son, they went just to roam around. While they were going on the forest, at that time, on the way, they saw a beautiful Shiva temple and a pond that was full of lotus. The Vajramukut and his friend both were very much fascinated by this beautiful lotus. They got down from the horse. At that time, they also saw a group of beautiful ladies, and one among them was looking much better and very beautiful. So he thought that she must be a princess. But they didn't come near to the group of ladies. At that time, the girl who was looking very beautiful and seemed to be a princess, she picked up a lotus. And she also noticed Vajramukut and his friend. She also didn't know any one of them. She only, after picking up the lotus, first she touched it near her ear, then in her teeth, then she touched it on her feet. After that, she touched to her bosom and said nothing, and she went away with her friends. Vajramukut was very much surprised, but he was so fascinated with her beauty that he wanted to marry her. He came back after some time. Vajramukut and his friend, both of them, came back to their kingdom. But since he was in love with that girl, he fell sick and didn't eat or drink anything. And few days later, his friend came to know that he was very close friend. So he came to know that Vajramukut wants to marry that girl. When he asked Vajramukut, what sign you have seen, then Vajramukut said, I don't know nothing, because you know that you were with me. I didn't speak to her, but she just did some indication with the lotus flower. And this minister's son asked what she did. Now I saw first she touched to the lotus to her ear, then to her teeth, next to feet, and then to her chest. Then his friend said, this is easy. Don't worry, I will tell you the meaning. Now what is that meaning? Now her name, when she touched her ear, that means she is staying in Karnataka. And when she touched in teeth, she is the daughter of Dantuva. And when she touched it on her feet, it seemed her name is Padmavati. And when she touched to her chest, it seemed she loves you. Then Vajramukut was very happy, and he said that, then oh friend, let us go and search for her. I want to marry her. So one day they both came out from their kingdom, uh, dressed like a sage, and roamed around in different places. At last they came to the city of that girl, Padmavati. When they came, they stayed there for few days because in one day they can't meet the princess. So while staying there, they met a nurse, and actually they met a fortune maker, and that fortune maker was the nurse of Padmavati. So when they asked about the princess of that place, that fortune teller, means the nurse of Padmavati, she could come to know their intention. Then she said she knows about Padmavati, and Vajra Mukut, he gave some message through this nurse. So this lady, means the fortune teller, the nurse, she took the message and gave it to Padmavati. When Padmavati came to know about Vajramukhu, she remembered the that day incident, and she was very happy. But what she did, she just, so when the nurse delivered the message to Padmavati, Padmavati just smeared her hands with sandal paste and slapped the nurse and sent her away. The nurse came to Vajramukut, and at that time his friend immediately said, "Oh, she wants to meet you after 10 days. And Vajramukut said nothing, and the nurse went away. After 10 days, again the nurse came to Padmavati. Then at that time, Padmavati just dotted her 3 fingers and sent her away to Vajramukut. The nurse came to Vajramukut and showed that. Now his friend said, "Okay, not today, 3 days later, when there would be no moon on the sky, that time she wants to meet you." And nurse came back to Padmavati saying that she has delivered the message. Now again Padmavati took the nurse to the western gate at night and asked her to stay for some time and then sent her back. She went and she said, Vajramukut, that she took me to western gate and we stayed for few minutes and then she sent me back. Then Vajramukut's friend said, it indicates that she wants to meet you in a lonely place at the place where the nurse is indicating. So at last Vajramukut came to that spot at night and they met. Both of them were very happy and Padmavati took him to her palace. They spent so many days very happily. After that, Vajramukut reminded about his friend. He felt very bad that his friend was not with him for so many days, and he told everything about his friend and how he helped him to solve his problem to Padmavati. Then suddenly Padmavati became a different person. I mean, she became very grave. She said nothing, and next day she requested Vajramukut to give some sweets to his friend. So he made some sweets and sent it with Vajramukut to his friend. When Vajramukut came with the sweets, his friend became appalled. He was very surprised. He said that, what does it mean? Then Vajramukut said, no, I don't know. Then he said, she has given poison in these sweets. And Vajramukut was very much surprised that why unnecessarily she had given poison to kill him. he didn't believe his friend first. But when his friend said that you give it to a dog or cat or anyone to prove, then you can come to know. And really they fed to a dog and the dog immediately died over there. Now, after hearing this, after some time, his friend, Bhadramukut's friend, told him how to handle Padmavati and win over her, and also to check her devious tricks. And Vajra listened all his plan. So, keeping all the plan in his mind, he came back to Padmavati again. They talked. While sleeping, Padmavati was sleeping at that time, Vajra took all his jewellery and with a trident he scratched her leg and ran away. Now both of them went to a goldsmith and sold this jewellery of Padmavati. The goldsmith was surprised when he saw all the jewels of princess. He said that these jewels belong to Princess Padmavati. Then he informed the king and immediately both of them were caught and they were taken to the king's court. There the king Dantavant, he immediately asked, "Oh sage, where did you get this jewellery?" Then the sage said, "I don't know. While I was in the cremation ground doing my meditation, at that time I saw a witch and I scratched her leg with a trident and this jewellery fell down." Then king said, his wife, "Go and search Padmavati's feet. Is there any scratch?" And his wife ran to Padmavati's bedroom and she saw that really there was a trident sign on her feet. Then Dantavant was very angry. He became furious to Padmavati that maybe she is a witch. So he just left her. He ordered his people to leave her on the jungle. And Padmavati was left over there. At last, somehow Padmavati once again tried to meet Vajra and she met him. Now the Betal asked to King Vikramaditya, "O king, tell me, who is the real guilty person? Whether whose fault it is, whether the Prince Vajramukut or his friend or Princess Padmavati or her father Dantavant, who is at fault?" Then Vikramaditya was bound to answer. He said that Vajramukut is not at fault because he was really in love with the princess. And his friend is also not at fault because he helped his friend, nothing else. And the princess, whatever she did out of love. So she is not at fault. But the king Dantavant, why did he left his daughter on the forest without judging the proper or without taking a proper decision? So in my opinion, he is at the fault. So this is the first story of Vikramaditya and Betal. And as Vikramaditya answered, Betal laughed and again flew away to the tree. where he was. Thank you. Wait for the next